Hey there YouTube, it's PETEY Two Finger and I'm going to try to do the definitive NUX MG300 firmware update video. So here's the steps that I personally recommend that you do when you update your NUX. So first you're going to back up your patches. Then you're going to run the firmware update. Then you're going to go ahead and do a factory reset. Then you're going to calibrate your expression pedal. And you're going to reinstall your custom patches. And that should bring you around to what you need. Some things to consider is, in my case, my NUX will only connect on one of my USB ports. So I use a cable that's always plugged in, and I know where it is whenever I'm going to do a firmware update or patchwork. I just grab that cable and plug that into the NUX. If you're having issues with the NUX software, the QuickTone software not connecting, I would ask you to reinstall the NUX driver and then reinstall the latest version of the QuickTone software. And that should get you to also use the cable that it came with. That'll be helpful. If you have a charging cable, that's only 2 wires. You need a 4-wire cable. Better yet, the cable that it came with. And you should not be using a USB extension cable or a port. What do you call it? A multiple splitter adapter. You should be going right into the back of your computer on one of those good motherboard USB connections. That's you know, if you're doing all of the above, if you have a little purple dragon guy that's M&M guy that's got USBs all over it, and that's on a 30-foot USB extension cable after extension cable, and you're getting connection and it's working, don't listen to me. But if you do run into any issues, these are some things you can do. Reinstalling the driver and reinstalling the software is probably going to solve the problem. If you are having a problem, and I got to tell you, to go even further, you can go into the device manager and uninstall all of your USB drivers, everything that Windows has installed. You uninstall those one at a time. Windows will reinstall them, and that can solve some nasty conflicts often when you're at the end of your rope. But as far as specifically this latest 3.10, a lot of people were having issues, and the reason I know that is from I'm a member of the NUX MG300 forum, so I just wanted to talk about that. It happened to me the first time I did the 3.10 update. I assumed that everything was fine, and then I went and checked my tuner. My tuner wasn't working. So that's the first tip-off that you've got a problem. Actually, if your custom patches are still there, that's another tip-off. I finished with the update, and my patches were still there. Well, that's because I didn't completely, properly, successfully install the firmware update. And I have done this several times on the NUX and never had an issue up until today. Typically, it takes, what's really important to know up front, it takes between 10 and 20 minutes to do the update. It's a long update. At least with me, I have an i7 with 36 gigs of RAM. That's how long it takes me on my system. And yesterday, when I did the update, there's 2 different places we can look when we're updating. One is the NUX firmware updater software, and one is the display and the unit itself. Looking at the software, there's a line that will move over the period of 20 minutes or so, and when it's at the end, it will say, successfully installed the update. Well, when I looked at my unit, it didn't say success, it said updating. And the line was not all the way over. There was one little spot of white. It's a green line that moves over on the display on the NUX. And that should have signified to me I either needed to wait or redo the update. Because today, when I went online and looked at what people were saying about the update, they were saying that their tuners didn't work and that all of their custom IRs they had installed on patches had been replaced with brand new IRs included in the 3.10 update. So it's important to know that we need to be careful. We can't interrupt the process. Ideally, I isolate my machine, and even then, if there is an issue and it doesn't say success on the screen on the actual unit itself, you may very well need to repeat the firmware update. And it would be more embarrassing to ideally, it would be better to do that immediately rather than after you've taken it out to a gig and discovered your tuner doesn't work. So considering some things, using the cable it came with, a proper 4-wire cable, whatever works for you, keeping it short, keeping it on a port that you know that works. The unit seems to be really forgiving about firmware updates, but the QuickTone software is the one where it doesn't want to connect. And I had that same problem today, which I solved by reinstalling the driver and the QuickTone software. So if you're having any issues with the NUX MG300, there's a forum on Facebook, or you can look elsewhere for your answers. Again, I'm not a guru with it. I just know that it's been a little bit tricky for me to get the QuickTone software to connect. And knowing that it can be different things. It can be the cable. It can be that the connection is not the best. Isolating it to make sure that it doesn't get bumped is a very smart thing to do during the update. Using the cable that it came with, obviously. So there is a few things to keep in mind, including checking the actual display on the NUX. And if it says updating and your computer is telling you that it's successful, you may need to redo your firmware update. Ideally, NUX does not archive their firmware updates, and they should, because people are bricking these things or getting to a point where that firmware update will not work until they need to go back to another previous firmware update, install that, and then they'll have another shot at reinstalling the newer firmware update. So I've actually helped people out. There was a guy in France, I think, and he asked, does anybody have this? And I had it. So what that should tell you is if you're downloading firmware updates from NUX, you should archive those. So good luck with your NUX MG300. Don't let me scare you off about this stuff. The unit, it's such a great sounding unit. And these acoustic IRs are really, they add a lot. I was checking them out today, and it just sounds fantastic. So I hope that was helpful. If it was, stick around. I make music here. You guys will like the music we make. It's fun guitar stuff. So instrumental guitar music. So I'd appreciate if you'd stop in and say hi in the comments section. If I helped you out, let me know that I helped you out. If you haven't got my 164 free patch set from there's a video on this channel, and if you watch that video, you can get the 165 patches for free. But you'll need to watch that video in order to do it. And I would twist your arm to do so. There's some good patches in there. Hug your pets, and peace.